Thank you all for coming. I'm David Torchiana, the head of the Physicians Organization. This is the largest group. Thanks. This is the largest group we've had at one of these events, but this is a very big place, and it looks like everyone's fitting in very comfortably. There's about 700 people here, I think, tonight. This is our fifth dinner, and I hearken back when I think about that when we were hatching the concept of having a physician dinner like this, and there was a lot of skepticism about it, and I have to say that I've enjoyed all of them thoroughly, and I hope you have too. So there's some important supporters of the MGPO with us tonight that I'd like to recognize. We have a group from the Board of Trustees. Of course, we have Jerry Austin seated over here, John Clarkson, Joseph Alillo, A.K. Goodman, Arthur Goldstein, Isaac Schiff, Jay Leffler, Pam Reeve, Ron Skates, and David Steele. We also have Ira and Jackie Stepanian here tonight. Ira is a longtime MGH trustee who actually sponsors the Mcgovern Awards with a generous gift. I'll say a few words about that later. We also notably have Brian McGovern's family here, a number of members of Brian's family. And I'd like to recognize, and I'll do this a bit more deliberately, Ann Jennings McGovern, his wife. It's hard to see with the lights. Josephine, his mother. For those of you who haven't seen the video that we made about Brian's life, which we showed at this dinner about 4 years ago, it is on the MGPO website. I encourage you to take a look, and there's no doubt that the star of that video was Josephine. Also, we have his brother Patrick and his daughters Katrina and Deirdre, as well as some friends of the family. Thanks to all the PO trustees and to the McGovern family for joining us tonight. So, as I said, I'm going to make a few remarks. I think an annual or biannual event like this is an important opportunity to reflect. And I don't want to be gloomy and depressing, so I want to leave you all with a sense of optimism about the future. And I think there's lots to be optimistic about. Peter Slavin's going to talk tonight on the occasion of the hospital's bicentennial, and it has been a wonderful experience for me to be able to work at a hospital that has been so dedicated and so effective in delivering patient care for such a long time and has established such a wonderful reputation. And I think the successes of healthcare have been lost a bit in the public debate, but the successes are very evident, I think, to all of us who are involved. Every year we provide better care. Every year we cure things that couldn't have been cured in the recent past, and we do a better job of managing patients, and particularly of late managing the problems of chronic illness, which are such an enormous burden. The challenges are enormous, and at times it is like we're being knocked around in a terrible storm. The health reform in both Massachusetts and Washington is at times bewildering, and the focus and concern about healthcare costs, especially in such a difficult economy, they seem like they're more intense than ever. It's not a new problem. I think healthcare costs has been a concern throughout my lifetime in practice, at least, but it seems like a more acute problem these days, and the forces pushing against us seem stronger than ever. One is that so many of the under 65 patients and get their insurance through their employer, and so the cost of insurance is a problem for employers, and the economy is increasingly global, and American employers are at a disadvantage globally because of healthcare costs. Extending the coverage, as has happened nationally and in Massachusetts as well, has brought coverage to many who couldn't access it before, but it's also greatly increased the focus on cost. We've been getting reports. There was another one last week on a recurrent basis about Massachusetts healthcare costs and provider pricing. And there's legislation that's being considered and that will likely be acted upon next year that may lead to regulation of institutional pricing, which is something that hasn't been present since the Dukakis administration. And unfortunately, a lot of the attention, rightly or wrongly, has been focused on partners as a significant source of the cost problem. Whether this is fair or unfair, I don't really know. I don't know that it matters whether it's fair or unfair. The lesson of the times is that once you expand coverage, the pressure is on to maintain access. This is going to happen nationally as well if the Affordable Care Act holds. And to do that, costs will have to be controlled. We're doing a lot to try to affect this. The hospitals across partners have had a very successful effort in the first year to contain the cost on the budget and take costs out of the budgets. And we have a very robust effort going on that will get stronger and broader over the next few years that Greg Meyer has led ably at MGH on care redesign. We have 10 disease areas that are working on care redesign. Many of the principals involved in those are here tonight. We may, and the news will be out on this shortly, we may also be applying to become a accountable care organization through one of the new Medicare programs. And as you know, as we've communicated, I think we've also signed commercial contracts where we're going to have to manage the total medical trend. All of this is going to change the way we get paid. It's going to change the trajectory that we're on in terms of revenue growth. The last 10 years have been a very favorable decade, but the next 10 years are not going to be exactly on the same pathway. It's going to be a rocky experience, but I have no doubt that we'll be successful. And we'll be successful because we're good at this stuff. We have very committed practitioners across the board. We have very committed administration. We have a great relationship with our institutional administration, and we'll be able to figure these things out. Regardless of the payment system, regardless of the challenges, though, the essence of MGH and the MGH physician really haven't changed at all since I've been here, and I don't think have changed for 200 years. Basically, the idea is to take the best care of the patient in front of you, one at a time, give every patient your best, and as long as we do that, I don't think we have a lot to fear. It's been our commitment throughout our history. Now, to comment on that and to reflect on the relationship between the doctors and the hospital, Peter and I thought it would be a good idea for him to say a few words tonight. And after Peter completes his remarks, we're going to show a video that we've prepared on a very exciting addition to the MGH campus, which is a museum that's been named in honor of Dr. Paul Russell, which you've all seen, I think, out on Cambridge Street. So Peter will make a few remarks. We'll look at a video on the new museum. I'll have another minute or so to speak, and then we'll get right to dinner. So Peter Slavin.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I've had the pleasure of knowing Dave Torchiana for over 20 years. He was a couple of years ahead of me in the surgical residency training program while I was going through medicine, and then I started working with him in the early 90s at a time when the hospital was just beginning to try to figure out ways to make care better and more efficient. And since the day I met Torch, I encountered a physician incredibly dedicated to the care of each and every patient, dedicated to his colleagues, and the Torch that I knew 20 years ago is the same Torch that I have the privilege of working with on a day-to-day basis. And I just want to, on behalf of everyone who's here today and throughout the physicians organization, thank him for his extraordinary leadership of this organization. So this is a very special year in the history of the hospital. for all of us here. And on behalf of the hospital, on the occasion of its bicentennial, the most important two words I wanted to say tonight were thank you. The physicians of Mass General, the physicians of Mass General Physicians Organization are incredible and have been so committed to the care of patients and committed to this hospital ever since the charter of this hospital was established back in 1811. At MGH, every role group in this hospital is critical to our ability to pursue our mission, from our physicians to our nurses, our buildings and ground staff to the admissions office. But as Torch said, this is the largest gathering of physicians we have throughout the year, and it really gives me a special opportunity on behalf of the hospital to thank all you have done and continue to do to build this extraordinary temple of healing we have the privilege of calling Mass General Hospital. One of the great strengths of the MGH is the remarkable relationship that exists between the hospital and the physicians. I think most people in this room know that most academic medical centers are truly hamstrung by epic battles that go on between the physicians and the hospital. And thanks to great physician leadership and the commitment of our physicians across this organization, the leadership of Torch, the chiefs, the vice presidents of the PO and the hospital, and all the dedicated physicians, at Mass General Hospital and the MGPO, we have the privilege of working together to provide the best care possible to our patients and their loved ones, and at the same time strive to provide even better care to them in the years to come. I wanted to spend a few minutes just covering a couple of highlights of this bicentennial year, the year 2011, which has really been a wonderful opportunity for us to look back over the last 200 years, but even more importantly, project forward as to how we can have an even more significant impact on society in the next 200 years. This year, just like in each of the preceding 200, or I guess it was in 1821 when we opened our doors, so about 190 years that we've been caring for patients, the most important thing we did this year was to take care of 50,000 inpatients and 1.5 million outpatients who we were privileged to care for. But another thing that happened this year, which I think is a great achievement, that is the result of a lot of hard work by a lot of people, was the opening of the Lunder Building on the MGH campus, a state-of-the-art facility that sets a new standard for patient-centered care and environmental friendliness. And for all of you in this room who have worked so hard on creating that new facility, I want to express my great appreciation to you. Third thing that happened this year is that we had the most successful fundraising year in the history of the hospital. Despite very difficult economic times, we raised $270 million in philanthropy, which means that we are 85% of our way toward our campaign goal of $1.5 billion. We've raised about $1.3 billion to support this hospital well into the future. And again, it's really the heart of our philanthropy program is the incredible care that you deliver to your patients who are so grateful for that care and want to do something to make a difference in the lives of future patients. And again, I want to thank all of you for helping make that achievement possible. Next thing I wanted to mention is I had the privilege this past Saturday night of traveling to Denver and accepting on behalf of the hospital the Spencer Forman Award from the Association of American Medical Colleges. That is given every year to the teaching hospital that the AAMC thinks has the best community health program in the United States. And I think for people who work within the hospital have recognized for 200 years our commitment to the community. For people in the communities we serve, they certainly recognize the commitment of Mass General Hospital. But I think it's wonderful that a national organization like the AAMC has recognized it as well. And it was a great honor to receive that award on behalf of all of you. And the final thing that I wanted to mention in terms of accomplishments this year, as you may have seen, we were ranked the #2 hospital in the United States by U.S. News and World Reports. In my view, they almost have it right. We're now only 1 point behind some obscure hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, and we can't wait to see what the rankings show next year. So I want to thank all of you. It's really, without this remarkable physician community, MGH would just be a series of buildings with walls, but certainly couldn't carry out its important missions. You all work your magic at the hospital every day and every night, be it in our inpatient units, our procedural suites, outpatient practices, health centers, classrooms, laboratories, or in local or global community settings. And I want to thank all of you for the incredible work that you do and the incredible commitment that you show every day and every night. And it's really your hard work that has led to this reputation that this hospital has enjoyed. One more big achievement that it will occur before our bicentennial year closes is the opening of one more new building that will chronicle our past and also showcase the future of medicine. The Paul Russell Museum of Medical History and Innovation promises to be a truly remarkable place, and it would not have been possible without the incredible generosity and leadership of Dr. Paul Russell, the Russell family, but also our chiefs of service and the physicians of the MGPO. And it was also, again, another great act of leadership on Torch's part, who initiated a fundraising campaign for the Russell Museum among the chiefs and the physicians. And so I want to thank Torch, the chiefs, and all the physicians of the MGPO for so generously donating funds that have made this great new facility possible. The museum is on track to be dedicated in the middle of December and will open its doors to the public early next year. So we have a video to give you a better sense of what you can expect when that new building opens in just a few weeks. So I hope you enjoy the video and hope you enjoy the rest of the dinner. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks once again to Steve O'Rourke for making that video, our videographer extraordinaire, and thanks for all the very articulate people who participated in it. I'd also like to thank Peter for being a great partner to work with and a great hospital president. We're very fortunate to have Peter Slavin, a dyed-in-the-wool MGH doctor, running this institution and caring as much as he does about all the facets of what we do. So, Peter, thanks a lot for coming tonight. I didn't see Paul Russell here tonight, but I thought I'd tell a little inside pool story about Paul's influence on this museum. Paul was a stalwart of this history committee, a bunch of zealots who would get together and think about these issues. And we were in a stage of planning around the notion of having a museum open in the bicentennial year. It seemed like a really fitting concept, but it seemed like every meeting that we had, and we had them about quarterly or sometimes every 6 months, each time the economy seemed worse and the external environment seemed a little more dire. And we finally got down to the wire, as Paul described in the video, where we really had to make a call on whether we were going to proceed or not. I think Paul described it accurately. Peter and I made what we thought was the right decision, but we did it with some trepidation. What's not in the video is that Paul was basically playing poker with us. He was sitting on his cards, and within minutes of the institutional commitment, Paul let it drop that he and his family were willing to give multiple millions of dollars to the museum, and he actually made that pledge right on the spot. Now, why the hell he couldn't have done it before we made the decision, I don't know, but I think I do know, really. He wanted to know that the institution was committed, and I think it was really a very impressive piece of brinksmanship, and we're really grateful to Paul and his extended family for their generous support. And I thought I'd say, with the Russells leading the way, I'm very pleased to say that 75% of the funding for this museum has come from MGH physicians and their families. So this is really a gift from the doctors to the hospital. So this is the end of the pre-dinner program. We'll now clear the plates and serve the main course. We'll be back in about 40 minutes or so with the Mcgovern Awards. During dinner, you'll see video screens projecting photos of all the nominees and some of the text from the nominations. So please enjoy your dinner. So tonight, the purpose of tonight is to recognize clinical excellence and the underappreciated heroes among us, like my friend Brian Mcgovern, people who take great care of patients but don't always get the highest level of recognition in the organization. Brian was a great person to be around. He had a unique blend of characteristics. He was humble but not too humble. He was bright, he was dedicated, and he had a very, very warm nature. And he was at times quite irreverent. If you don't know him, as I said earlier, if you didn't have the pleasure to meet Brian or work with him, please visit the website and take a look at a video that we produced with Steve O'Rourke a few years ago. What everyone agrees distinguished Brian was the connection he made to other people, whether it was a worried patient, a stressed colleague, or his own family whom he cherished. Brian had a gift for making people feel befriended and feel important. After his tragic death, we created an award in his honor to honor physicians who emulate the qualities that Brian had. Because for all the advances in medicine, all the great technology, it's the way we treat our patients and the way we treat each other that sets the great physicians apart. It's now my pleasure to present the 2011 Brian Mcgovern Awards. One final mention before I do that, I wanted to touch on the fact that 9 of our previous 14 award recipients were planning to be with us tonight. I don't know if anyone was a last-minute no-show, but if the 9 could please stand as I read your names. We'll start with Nesli Vazquez. And Nesli, you were great on the video tonight as well. John Godin. Hassan Bazari. Charlie Boucher, all these group from medicine. We have Dennis Burke. I saw Dennis earlier from orthopedics. We have David Ebb and Patricia O'Malley from pediatrics. And we have A.K. Goodman and Laura Riley from OBGYN. Thank you all. I'd like to again mention Ira and Jackie Stepanian's generosity. They've been volunteers and ambassadors for the MGH for many years. And after attending this dinner in 2006, Ira came up and told me that he and Jackie thought this was a wonderful tradition, but that we ought to give the physicians some cash as well as recognition. And he very generously donated a significant amount of money to endow this in perpetuity. From that conversation, we've not only established the award for physician recognition, but from time to time we will also give a trustee's medal as well. And this is a reflection of Ira and Jackie's commitment to supporting the careers of talented physicians at MGH, and I'm really very personally pleased that Ira and Jackie did this. I think it's a wonderful add to the evening. Thank you so much. So we had 97 different clinicians nominated this year. They're all identified in the program that's at your table. I've seen many of them here this evening. Hopefully everyone saw the pictures during dinner. We will now do the awards, and the way that we decided to do this in the past, and I'm always welcome, I will always welcome feedback on how best to accomplish this. We thought it was not an enhancer for the evening for folks to have to get up and give an Oscar speech, but what we think is a nice part of doing this is we have someone come up who wrote one of the nominating letters to read from the letters to personally nominate each of the individuals that will receive the awards. So we're going to start out, our first nominator is Greg Meyer, who happens to be one of the PO vice presidents. He's also a primary care doc in the IMA. He will describe our first recipient.
Thank you, Torch. I am absolutely delighted that this physician is one of the recipients of the McGovern Award for Clinical Excellence, and truly honored that Torch has given me the chance to read from the nomination letters about him. Here's what they say. He's an outstanding surgeon, superb clinical investigator, and tremendous teacher. The rotation on his clinical surface is consistently rated among the favorite components of our surgical residency program. Residents, nurses, surgeons, and other physician colleagues view him as a model for both caring clinical expertise and human caring. He tackles some of the most complex operations on patients from all over the world. Despite the technical difficulty of these operations, the complicated courses, and the overall poor prognosis, he instills confidence and hope in his patients and their families. We receive a steady stream of letters from his grateful patients who praise his warmth as well as his skill. From another nomination, a warm, outgoing, supportive person, he has been a friend and a mentor and the go-to guy many in the institution and beyond rely on. I can't imagine that there's a better candidate for the Mcgovern Award. He's an extraordinary surgeon, teacher, mentor, and perhaps even a better person. All this is accomplished with dignity, humor, and warmth. You cannot find a person at the MGH or elsewhere who has anything but nice things to say about him. Personally, I've experienced all those things in my work with this physician. He takes on extraordinary challenges, technical and more importantly, human. Despite the grave circumstances which make up his daily routine, he portrays a grace, a dignity, and humanity which endear him to patients and fellow physicians alike, and he makes me feel honored to call him a colleague. I'm very proud to announce that my friend, Carlos Fernandez del Castillo, is the Surgical Services recipient of the 2011 Mcgovern Award for Clinical Excellence.
Our second award recipient will be presented by John Godine from the Department of Medicine. John was one of the first Mcgovern recipients in 2004. John?
I'm very grateful to Torch and for the MGPO for allowing me to be involved in this wonderful event and to honor this physician. And it's a pleasure to read from the nominations. She is the physician that we would want to care for our families, the physician we turn to with difficult questions, and the physician who, as trainees, we aspire to become. She cares deeply for her patients, addressing both their medical needs and their needs for understanding and comfort. This is exemplified every day, but one particular pointed example was a longtime patient of hers who became progressively ill over several months. The complexity of his medical problems was complicated by his personal struggle with how to face the end of his life. Many physicians would have stepped away from this patient from a situation with many frustrations and few rewards. She never considered this, always engaging fully in his care and managing his many complex illnesses while also supporting him and his family. Every patient she cares for and about whom she receives calls and emails from far-flung reaches of the world, and I should attest that I've been the beneficiary of these email consults from around the world as well, become her priority. She labors over the diagnosis, reviewing primary data assiduously. A visitor to the Dodd room might mistake her for one of the CT radiologists, since she is there so often to review chest imaging. Among the specialists there, she is well known for her attention to detail and passion for clinical care. She carefully reviews the microbiology and has specialty labs around the country on speed dial. When considering the complicated multi-drug regimens with significant toxicities, potential interactions, and arcane toxicology monitoring, she reviews decisions with leading pharmacists in the field. In short, she leaves no stone unturned. From another nomination, her frank but gentle explanation of poor prognosis to a shared patient stands in my mind as the most heartfelt conversation between provider and patient that I've ever seen. She is the go-to person for tough cases in her field. Her answers are unfailingly judicious, decisive, and knowledgeable. In sum, she epitomizes excellence in the mold of Dr. Brian McGovern and is deserving of his namesake award. Torch mentioned that Dr. McGovern was humble and then added not too humble. In my opinion, this physician might actually be too humble. And it is my great pleasure to announce that my good friend and colleague, Rocio Hurtado, is the medical services recipient of the 2011 McGovern Award.
Thanks very much, John. Our next speaker will be Chief of General Thoracic Surgery, Doug Matisse.
Thank you, Torch. I think I speak for everybody here tonight about that wonderful video that we saw of the museum. I know all of us are anxious to see it. I did want to mention, though, Torch, I thought those instruments that Patty Austin showed, I swear they were in my kit in the operating room last week, so I'm going to double check to see if indeed they're missing. This is a special privilege and honor to be part of this special evening tonight, honoring the memory of Brian McGovern and all that he stood for. And those colleagues that all of us have thought carefully about and determined that they share those qualities of Brian's. So indeed is a special honor. It also has given me pause to have a personal reflection. And in the instructions for tonight, they said I had that option of saying a few personal words as well. I knew Brian as a friend and as a patient. Many years ago, I had traveled to northern Maine to give a lecture and woke up in the morning and found out that I was in atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat. I won't go into the details of what that was all about, but my wife's common sense prevailed, and she said, Doug, you need to go back home and go to the hospital. And reluctantly I did, but not before I called my good friend, Dave Torchiana, and said, Torch, here's the problem. Who should help me? Without hesitation, he said, Brian McGovern. He said, I'll call around and see if he's around. Sure enough, he called me back and said, Brian, we'll see you in his office. It was a beautiful fall day, and it was a Saturday. And I said, well, it's likely to be middle of the afternoon. And he said, don't worry, Brian will be there for you. That was one of the qualities that you've heard already. He always went out of his way for others, and especially patients, and especially colleagues. So I showed up in Brian's office in atrial fibrillation, talked briefly, and Brian said, well, Doug, let's have a seat on my examining table, and I'll take a listen to your heart. And I sat down, and as he started to put the stethoscope on, I went like this, and I said, Brian, stop. I think I'm in sinus rhythm. We may be done here. And I said, I knew you were good, Brian, but not that good. That was the second quality. He was really good at what he did. And so that began a friendship and a patient relationship. So indeed, to be able to be here tonight and participate is a special privilege for me to honor the memory of Brian McGovern. It's also quite in vogue that we disclaim conflicts of interest, and had this letter that came from the Thoracic Surgery Service been sent a few years ago, I would have had to come up here and disclaim a conflict of interest, because the person I'm going to introduce to you, her daughter took care of my youngest daughter, Kate. Well, that was quite a while ago. The statute of limitations have finally expired, and this letter was generated with not a pang of conscience. It was straight from the heart. When I think of the McGovern Award, this comes from an individual, but it represents the sentiment of the entire division of thoracic surgery for the person that we work with on a daily basis. When I think of the McGovern Award, it is to be given to individuals who epitomize those unique qualities that represent the MGH physicians that we are all so proud of. This physician captures all of those qualities, in my opinion. I've worked with her for over 25 years and can honestly say that she is one of the finest physicians in the hospital. She's an exceptionally talented radiologist. Fellow radiologists, present and past trainees, and most importantly, the physician colleagues that work with her on a day-to-day basis hold her in the highest regard. She is the person, as you've heard of some of the others on the stage tonight, that you go to when you really want an honest answer. She is technically quite adept, is called upon to do biopsies in the most difficult of patients or those who are the sickest. She rarely says it cannot be done, and always willing to give it a try when others have declined. And almost always, she's successful. She's a true colleague in that whenever the need arises to collaborate, whether it's around a teaching conference, a postgraduate course, a clinical project, or some new innovative technique that she's developed in her own area, she is a great person to collaborate with in that regard, and always ready, willing, and able to do so. Again and again, the patients that she helps take care of from our service, I hear more often from them about her than any other physician that we deal with, about how wonderful it was, what a calming presence she provided for either difficult or anxious patients and their families. And this is something that I hear over and over again, and the tremendous respect that they have for her. I can think of no one who is more deserving of this award and who so epitomize that which makes the MGH great. And while I'm up here presenting it, I guarantee you this is the sentiment of the entire division of thoracic surgery who works with this individual on a daily basis. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce Dr. Joanne Shepard, who is the chief of chest radiology at the Massachusetts General Hospital, and maybe equally important, the mother of our former babysitter.
Why don't you all come over here and stand for a picture together? Thanks a lot. Congratulations. Congratulations to Dr. Fernandez, Dr. Hurtado, and Dr. Shepard. Together you personify MGH clinical excellence and the enduring spirit of Brian McGovern. That is the end of our formal program. I want to give a few thanks before we serve dessert. Deborah Colton, as always, led the team with the support of Christina Wilburn, Carrie Shaw, Linda McKenzie, Sherwood Hughes, Sandy Deeden. John Herman chaired the McGovern Award Committee this year, and Steve Rourke gave us another great video. Please continue to enjoy the evening, have dessert, stay late and dance to Madhouse. And when it's time to leave, don't forget to get a ticket for free valet parking if you valet parked, and also for the coat check. Thanks for so many of you for coming out. I know life is busy. It's great to have you all here. Next dinner will be in the spring of 2013. Good night.